Great. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Re-envisage Radio. I'm really excited this afternoon because I've got Geoff McDonald, who's kindly agreed to come and have a chat with us. I think probably most of you watching this will know Geoff. He is an amazing advocate and passionate, effective campaigner on the topic of mental health and breaking the stigma associated with all that. And he's done a phenomenal job over the last 2 or 3 years, perhaps longer, correct me if I'm wrong, Geoff, on really campaigning initially in the UK, but now globally, like really traveling, working with all sorts of companies and organizations and hosting conferences and really shifting and breaking down the stigma and the barriers that are associated with poor mental health or ill mental health. So Geoff, I've had the privilege of knowing you for probably 12 months or so and been to a couple of the conferences that you sponsor. And I'm really honored to have you here with us this afternoon. As you know, I'm taking this time to talk about just really sharing some of the heart of Re-envisage and really what my business is about. I want to make this content available. I want to really encourage people during this season. And we're having a conversation through Re-envisage Radio about some of the hot topics and things that people are feeling right now. Really wanting to connect with people, encourage people, and just even help the personal culture and the team culture in this very strange environment that we're in. So with that, I'll allow you to say some introductory comments, and then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, which hopefully will be really pertinent for people this afternoon.
Oh, thank you so much, Andrew. And I think it's wonderful what you're trying to do and give to the world over these challenging, unprecedented, and for some people very, very difficult times. I think that I've been very encouraged, I must say, by the response that I've seen from some organizations during this time to really attend to the mental and emotional health of their people. I think I've been doing this work now I started advocating and campaigning back in 2012 when I was in Unilever, but since leaving Unilever at the end of 2014, I've really made it my life's purpose. That is to try and create workplaces all over the world where people feel that they just genuinely have the choice to ask for some help if they're suffering from a common form of mental ill health. And I think where we are today is that companies have moved from, why should they address this to how should they go about doing it? And I think in a bizarre way, COVID-19 is beginning to show us how important it is to, one, look after our mental and emotional health. But more importantly, in a bizarre way, it's opening up the conversation because none of us are not feeling a bit anxious, a bit stressed, around these times. And so this conversation in a funny kind of way is kind of okay to have. And I hope that will continue.
Yeah, no, I'd certainly agree with you. Like even the most optimistic or, well established in terms of managing your own health, people finding all sorts of new stresses that they haven't had to deal with in these times, right? I went to the supermarket a week ago and I was just amazed. As soon as I had to queue for 45 minutes to get in, and then when I got in, you could feel literally in the atmosphere just the anxiety and the fear, and I was just like, wow, this is completely strange, But I actually felt quite worried while I was in there myself, just because you start to think differently. So Geoff, what do you? I know you're still very actively engaged with a lot of businesses at the moment, and helping a lot of people through this current COVID-19 season that we're in. What are some of the things some of the challenges that you're seeing now that people are trying to deal with?
Well, I think the biggest challenge that, from a business point of view, I think the biggest challenge is actually keeping those businesses going. So I think the whole business continuity piece and ensuring that those businesses are sustainable into the future is I think a huge challenge. I think at a personal level, I think people are, some of the challenges are, people are being asked to work from home. And in working from home, that is difficult for some people. It means that the social connections are fewer and less frequent, and I think people are struggling with that. I think that people are also, something that I've been saying is people have an expectation of normal, and they're having to let go of that expectation of normal. And I think people are finding that very, very difficult to do, to let go of what is normal during the course of the day, and kind of letting go of that. I think that people are also really struggling with, the shifts in the whole family system and how the family is operating while you're working from home, and having family at home, and also then having to school kids, etc., etc. So, I think that there are people out there that are struggling with just living with some people that they, don't want to be living with, or they, can try and get away from. So I think the whole thing of domestic abuse and violence is really, really scary, and people are having to deal with all of those challenges. And on top of that is the uncertainty that comes with COVID-19. And trying to deal with that uncertainty, and I suppose many people living in the future and thinking about the future rather than trying more and more to be living in the present. So I think there are numerous challenges that go with, one, business continuity, and then what people are feeling and having to deal with at a very personal level.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the family one is is an interesting one. I mean, that's when I've got 4 children, so we
Wow.
we're suddenly homeschooling.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have to say the British school system is amazing in terms of, at least our experience, how they are supporting children online, the platforms that they're using. Our kids have really adapted, and they're knuckling down and doing it. But it's different. It's massive change, and I'm imagining all of their friends, families, and really the whole nation. So it's, that's a whole new dimension that's entered the workplace that wasn't there before, right? I mean, I used to get up when I was working with HSBC, leave early in the morning, come home late at night, and I didn't really know what happened during the day, to a large extent. And now I'm right in the middle of it all. So,
but also, imagine being in a country where you haven't got the sort of support and the technology to school your kids and look after your kids. There are countries out there where people are living in a single room as a family and trying to manage that, and not being able to get outside and connect with their friends. One of the things that I say during this time is, being grateful for where we are at and what we have got, because it's all relative. It's all relative in terms of the challenges and the difficulties. And in some instances, just being alive, it's worth being grateful for just waking up and being alive.
Yeah. Well, I was going to move into asking you, sort of what are you, I guess some recommendations in the different sort of season that we're in now. So I know you're very outspoken and real encouraging voice in when business was operating as it was a month ago. How are those messages now different? Like, what would you be saying now to, whether it's to individuals or executives at home, or leadership teams, or families? Like, what can they be doing to be helping themselves and helping their businesses?
Yeah, shall we break that into sort of the 2 areas? So just as individuals, and what could individuals be doing right now to keep themselves, or to try and stay on top of some of the mental and emotional stresses that they might be feeling? And just a couple of things, Andrew. I mean, the first is, I think individuals need to be very, very careful about where they're getting their information from right now. And to just use reputable sources to keep informed around COVID-19. You know, I think with social media and fake news, and I mean, one can be really scared into stuff that might not actually be reputable. So I would really encourage people to, you know, to look at, you know, reputable sources. I think the other thing is just the media and how you're following the outbreak in the media. So I'd be suggesting to people to just limit their consumption of news and social media. You know, take a break from it, and maybe, you know, maybe you read or you look at something, I don't know, once a day. You know, look at, if you're living in the UK, look at, you know, the number 10 Downing Street briefing, and just be careful how much media you are following. And if it causes you some stress, then I would really encourage people to, you know, to stop reading it. But you can't avoid it completely, because it's important to keep informed. I think the other one is just trying to stay connected, Andrew. You know, we are as human beings, we need connection, we need relationships, and therefore trying to stay connected with one another, you know, in touch with friends, with family, with colleagues. I think that becomes really important. I think we've also got to just anticipate our stress and acknowledge how we're feeling. I think that's so important, to try and acknowledge some of those feelings rather than try and fight them every day and wish that you weren't feeling like this. I mean, we're all feeling anxious. We're all feeling more stressed than normal. And so therefore it's kind of okay to feel like that. And I think to accept some of those feelings, but to know that those feelings will pass and that they're not there forever. I think sticking to a daily routine is also very, very important, is what I'm really encouraging people to do, to try and stick to a daily routine and put a bit of a routine into your day. So, you know, so I think those are just, you know, and then there's all sorts of other things around just, you know, the simple stuff around trying to stay physically active, watching what you're eating and what you're drinking, making sure that you're getting enough sleep, and making sure you're getting some recovery during the course of the day. You know, and maybe learning a new skill, maybe learning a bit of mindfulness and meditation, so that you can just have some of those real calming moments. So there's a lot there, but you know, those are just a couple of little nuggets that I would be encouraging people to think about doing as they try and cope and manage and try and maintain some good emotional and mental health. I think there's something around leadership, which is a bit different. You know, which was the second part of your question, and what could leaders be doing now? And I think there are a couple of things. The one is, I just think they need to communicate. So I think one of the things that leaders can do now is to try and bring as much stability and reduce as much uncertainty as they can. And to do that through communicating with their people, and thinking about how can this communication bring stability? How can this communication help to reduce some of the uncertainty? I also think that, you know, a lot of people are working from home right now. And so therefore, you know, you spoke about my voice being a reassuring voice. And I think it's important that leaders bring that reassurance as best they can, and make sure that none of their team members are kind of feeling left alone or have less access to their leader. Particularly in this kind of working from home situation. I would really encourage leaders, when they have their virtual meetings, to just do a simple check-in to see where people are at in terms of some of their feelings, so that you get a sense. And by the way, as that leader, be vulnerable yourself, you know, so don't come in as this kind of macho, I've got it all under control, sort of approach, and show a bit of vulnerability, but do that with skill, because you don't want to panic everybody. But I think to share, and it just gives people in your team permission to say that they might not be feeling that great. And by the way, it's okay for me to say to my leader, I'm feeling a bit anxious today, or I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling a bit of a sense of hopelessness, or whatever the case might be. I think the other thing that leaders need to be very mindful of now, Andrew, is some of the symptoms around depression and anxiety, and being clear on what those symptoms are, and to be looking out for those symptoms in their people. And, you know, I often say the simplest way to do that is, we know what people's normal behavior is. And if you notice that somebody over a period of 3 or 4 weeks, or the last 2 weeks, their normal behavior is just not normal, then I think it's really important that those leaders have a conversation with their people to show them the support, the compassion, and the love that is required during this time. And how do leaders send a message to their people to say, you know what, mental ill health is okay. You know, if you feel that you might be suffering from anxiety or depression, that's okay. And I'm here to support you, to help you, to signpost you. And so finding a way to let your people know that you kind of have this compassionate and understanding relationship to the more serious forms of mental ill health, like depression and anxiety, I think is really, really important for leaders. Trust and empowerment, I think, is so important right now, to just, you know, to be seen as a leader and to show that that people can trust you, empower your people, and don't get into micromanaging everybody right now. And then self-care. I think leaders sharing some of their own techniques and some of the things that they are doing to keep themselves physically, emotionally, and mentally fit. And I think if they do some of that, and they communicate some of the self-care things that they are doing, like taking a lunch break, like going for a bit of a run, you know, it just starts to give the team members permission to do the same thing. I mean, I saw a lovely article the other day, which was around, you know, what are the 4 things that a leader could be doing right now, and almost providing vision, and all that begins to pale into insignificance. And I think the 4 things were giving people a sense of hope, showing compassion, love, and understanding. The other one was around stability, and making sure that people feel, you know, that things are as stable as they can be. And then finally instilling a sense of trust in their people.
Yeah. Well, Geoff, you've given us a whole meal there in terms of things to think about, both individually but also corporately. And you know, I think I'd, you know, just thanks for sharing your wisdom. One of the things that strikes me is that whilst there's a whole lot of stuff going on right now that we would never wish for, one of the byproducts of that is actually, it really is providing an opportunity for people to be much more vulnerable with each other, and to actually connect in a much more manner, right?
Absolutely.
And that connection and that care is actually, you know, you want to do it for the right reasons, but when you do it for the right reasons, it's like, it's fuel for so much, you know. It's the most inspiring and motivating, and it's really going to be good for individuals, good for families, good for business. So I would 100% agree with you, and just say, you know, for those people that are managing people at the moment, I view myself, you know, I'm managing a family now, you know, like the best thing I can do is just quality time and connection with my family. And it's so easy to get frustrated or worried, but actually taking that time, rebalancing, rechecking, and just being honest is actually is a tremendous opportunity. So
I think you're so right, Andrew, that vulnerability piece. And that's why I said, as a leader, you know, being able to share some of that vulnerability and share a bit of where you're at. I mean, the amount of goodwill and what that will do to the relationships that you then build into the future and with your team at this time, so critical.
It's huge. Yeah. I was watching, I saw a message by the CEO of Marriott. I've just temporarily forgotten his name, but it's out there on YouTube at the moment. So inspiring, you know, just he did everything that you talked about, you know, communicating strongly and clearly, but also being open, very vulnerable, and trying to create the vision that he could, but really showing care for his people. So very inspiring message. Geoff, I'm mindful of time, and I'm you know, I know that you've got to move on to the next one because you are helping a lot of people at the moment. I really want to thank you for taking the time to share with me, and look forward to sharing this message as broadly as we can. If this message has really connected with you, and I hope that it has, and you want to, you know how to get in touch with Geoff, that'll be through the media platform. But also, if you'd like to have to understand what I'm doing with Re-envisage and really working with teams, and we're doing that now virtually, through an electronic means, and helping connect and helping care for each other, helping that company culture, then I would love to have a conversation with you about that. So please feel free to look us up online, re-envisage.co.uk. And Geoff, just a final word from you.
Maybe my final message is the following. I saw this the other day, Andrew. Also highly contagious is kindness, is patience, is love, enthusiasm, and a positive attitude. Don't wait to catch it from others. Go and be the carrier at this time.
Well, thank you very much. I just want to let that be the closing statement. So let's call it a day. Thank you very much, Geoff, and we'll look forward to seeing you in real life soon.
Thank you, Andrew.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.